Teachers of Reddit, what was the best excuse for being late that turned out to be true? A kid's apartment burned down overnight. He was a little late, but still came. Now, that's dedication. Now that's the parents needing to figure out shit and not wanting to have to take care of the kid for a couple of hours. He was 16-ish. He could have helped them sort things out. Education was more important to him because AP exams were coming up. Told me he got pulled over by the cops for wobbly driving on his bike and they thought he was drunk. Turned out he was just dodging all the slugs on the street. Did he tell them he was sluggish? Good man. Watching out for the sluggies. They like to traverse the walkway in front of my house at night, so I always have to shine a flashlight so I don't step on them. One of my organ students told me he was late arriving for his lesson because he got stuck behind a lengthy funeral procession en route to the cemetery. I knew he was telling the truth because I had played the organ for the service earlier that morning and the church was packed. After that first paragraph, I had some really wild ideas about what you would be teaching to your organ students. This happened to me as a pupil. A very quiet, unassuming kid in our class came into German with about 5 minutes of the class left. We went to a Catholic school, and the teachers were all quite strict and intimidating. Classes were usually silent, especially in junior school. When this boy came into class at the end of the lesson that day, the door flew inwards with such force that the teacher gave an audible gasp. It had been raining heavily outside. His hair was plastered to his forehead. His blazer was dripping and sodden. He had mud caked into his trousers up to his knees, and he was breathing heavily. The teacher exclaimed, "Brendan, what happened?" We all stared up at him in shocked silence. This quiet, unassuming little boy let out a big sigh and just said, "I took a shortcut," and went straight to his seat. That line became iconic in our school for years afterwards. I love this story. The kid came in badass. I have so many questions. In my hometown, if you walked into anywhere late and said the phrase, "Sorry, grain train," you were never challenged. It was extremely common for 50+ carriage trains to run through the middle of town. We have the same thing in my hometown, except the bridge was up. That bridge is notorious for not following a schedule and always being up when you're in a hurry. Not me, but in my class. This was in college. Student turned in work late after not showing up for 2 classes. 2 classes amounted to a full week, so it was noticeable. Professor looked at him and said, "I hope somebody died for you to be this late. Does my dad count?" Honestly, I've always heard you can hear a pin drop and never really thought anything of it, but yeah, you could hear a freaking pin cut through the air after that. Jeez, teacher must have been like, "Oh crap." A way too friendly taxi driver asked me and my sister why we were so quiet. "Did anyone die?" Hee. "Yes, we're just on the way back from our dad's funeral." He didn't say a word for the rest of the drive. A kid missed my first period class one morning, but was in school later that day. When I asked him why he hadn't arrived in time for my course, he said his cow was birthing its calf that morning, so he'd picked being in the barn over English. Made sense to me. His essays weren't going to win any ribbons at the county fair, but his calf could. I was late to AP Bio because my goats had kids that morning. I feel like that should have counted for my grade. Edit. Thanks for the kind words and generous awards. My bio teacher was actually a neighbor and had been by my farm before, so I of course didn't get in any trouble. It's not a farming community, though, very suburban, so I was the only one in the school that could have used the excuse. We had an exam in my class, and the teacher got a message from a student saying that he was going to be late because his car had a flat tire. The student was known to party. The teacher didn't think it could be true, so as a joke, the teacher asked him to bring the tire back. He brought the flat tire back in the middle of an exam. Needless to say, the professor didn't expect that. That student had been partying, drives to school, takes off tire, punctures it, and bobs your Auntie Mary. UK. A student couldn't submit an assignment on time, as the Wi-Fi was down on the megabus. Edit. Cheers for all the love, and I'll be sure to tell the student his megabus mishap is relatable across the globe. Standard, to be honest. Wait, there's Wi-Fi on megabus? I was one of about 20 kids who were late to school. We showed up at the school office as a group, and when questioned why we were late, we said, "The school bus blew up." They questioned, "So the engine blew up?" The kids, "No, the whole bus, in flames. It blew up." There was much conference between the teachers, all of them thinking we embellished the story. Next thing you know, one of the admin staff has the news website open. Very obvious image of an entire bus on fire, with a bunch of kids in our school uniform standing in front of it. Our late slip for class read, "School bus blew up." If that happened, I would walk home. My best friend and I used to roller skate to school, and one day we both forgot to put our shoes in our backpacks. So we skated to the vice principal's office and got to skip first period to go home for shoes. We stopped at Taco Bell on the way back for breakfast because we figured we were already excused. I had a teacher in high school that would tell us, if we're gonna be late, to pick up coffee because 2 minutes late is the same as 15. MTV paid me $50 to fill my backpack with cement and carry it around for the day. I accepted that excuse. Student later regretted it, as a replacement backpack and college textbooks far exceeded $50. But he got his moment of fame, and I didn't penalize him for his tardy. Got to live a little. Edit. Someone found a newspaper article on this. Turns out it was $200. He earned $100 for the first day, and $100 when he returned the next day. I remembered $50, but it was 19 years ago. So, I was right to believe him. He still lost all his stuff. Thanks cement, and I remember him telling me it wasn't worth it. And edit. Typo. But did he have any concrete evidence? Take my stupid fricking upvote. What kind of idiot doesn't take his books out first? It was part of the requirement, as he explained it. Probably sounded exciting at the time. "Hey you, guy on the street, let's fill your backpack right now." It included his notebooks and everything. I had a teacher who showed up about halfway through the class. Apparently her car had slid. Intense snowstorm the night before, and she had walked the last mile or so. That's dedication to students. When I was in college, my psych professor told us that the only excuse for being late was a funeral procession. Any other reason, you wouldn't be allowed to come in. A few weeks into the semester, I was headed from one building to another, which involved crossing the main road. Lo and behold, there was one very long funeral procession going by. I got a short video of it as proof, then stood on the sidewalk to let it go by. Unfortunately, the procession made me 5 minutes late to class. I knocked on the door, and the professor came over to start to tell me off. I showed her the video. Well, I'll be damned. Come on in. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for another new video tomorrow.